teammates missed tonight's meeting or want to hear from any of our speakers, they can log on through Canvas to be able to watch the video. All right, so a little update that we have here is our service hours will be due and needed to be submitted by this Sunday, April 4th, to be able to be considered for our Oscars banquet. Individual and team service hours can be reported and then tracked through that dashboard. And then if you want to see who's currently in the lead, all that information can be accessed on the dashboard as well. And now we'll hear from a guest speaker, David Deere.
Thanks. Can I share my screen real quick?
I can, yeah, we can give you permission here. Allie, can you do that? Because I'm not the host, actually.
I just did.
All right, thank you. Is that coming through now?
Yep.
All right, well, thanks for having me, everyone. My name's David Deere, and I'm with the Ames Little League here in town. And we've had this idea floating around about how we could kind of integrate and partner with student athletes for a little while. So I'm just glad to have this opportunity to come talk about that. So just a little bit about Ames Little League. We serve about 300 kids a year from the Ames and some of the surrounding communities. Obviously, we're Little League, so we're one of our main objectives is helping kids with their baseball skill development. But a lot of the other stuff we do is helping them just grow in their character skills, like hard work, perseverance, sportsmanship, you know, how to be a good human being, basically, is what they're kind of getting through this experience also. And the even bigger picture is building up the Ames community. And that's all part of it, what they're learning when they come to play Little League. So why am I here talking with you tonight? Because it might not make sense. But a couple years ago, a couple football players had reached out to one of our board members about potentially umpiring some games. And we weren't set up to handle that back then, but I think we're changing that now. And so we do have some opportunities around that. But at the same time, at least one board member was talking to probably Lindsay and maybe some other people about some bigger picture ideas too, about how to strengthen like the ISU Ames relationship. How do we get athletes integrated better into the Ames community? How do we even help athletes develop in their kind of human skills as well as just their sports skills, like we want our little leaguers to do too. So that's kind of where this has been developing and how things have been brewing in our minds. So part of our idea is getting ISU athletes to kind of come and help out or hang out around or be part of Little League a little bit. Obviously, there's a benefit to Ames kids, right? Because the kids go nuts around ISU athletes. One of my kids tonight, I wanted to come in and look on in the corner to see who was on here. And the kids would also get some great role models around how to work hard and persevere in their sports endeavors. And then for the student athletes, we hope to build this sense of being part of this broader Ames community and being a valuable participant in that, and as well as a chance to earn some money here through some umpiring. So there's a couple different ideas we have that we're happy to discuss or explore other ideas if anyone here has those. But the first and most clear one is umpiring just as a job, to be straightforward. So on Tuesday and Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. out at Hunziker, we have a bunch of baseball games going on. Umpiring generally takes about 2 hours, maybe a little bit less, and we typically pay $50 a game. And that would probably be, as a 1099 contractor, you get paid through Venmo, pretty easy there. But another idea we could talk about is just getting athletes to come out and volunteer. You know, it could be coaching, but it could just be helping as well if people don't want that level of responsibility. You know, just having an athlete around to help guide the players and kind of give them a little bit of instruction, but more of that character development type quality and encouragement, things like that. And we'd definitely be open to any other ideas and ways to integrate if anyone here has those ideas as well. A couple different ways we could move forward here based on whatever input you guys have. But if there's only a handful of people interested, like we can handle that on a case-by-case basis. Just email me. My phone number's on the next slide too. Text me. I've already had one football player reach out last night about it, so there is some interest there. But if this committee thinks there's a broader interest in the whole ISU athletics community, we could build it into whatever would interest you all. So we could do some training. We could go through a sign-up process if people wanted to come out and help out in any way possible. So that, I mean, that's really it. I just wanted to kind of throw this idea out there and see if there was interest, or see if you guys thought there might be interest, but you need to go talk to your teams. But we would love just to talk about and work out some ways to integrate together and make the Ames community better overall.
David, what is the time frame? When does the season start?
Great question. Practices are going to start next week, actually, but the actual season with games for umpiring would be April 26th through end of June.
So if they were interested, when would they need to get in touch with you by?
The sooner the better, but in the next 3 weeks, at the tail end, 3 weeks, within 3 weeks.
So probably within the next 2 weeks, if there's interest, or if you guys know of anybody who might have interest, certainly get connected with David. And then I think as we look at the bigger picture, this will be something that we'll take forward into next year's SAAC exec group, and then also just the SAAC at large group, to see how we can do more connecting opportunities within the community. So it's nice to see that. And thanks for putting that presentation together. That really helped to outline things better than the bullet points that we just had here on the screen.
No, those are great.
Does anybody have any questions for David?
I don't have a question, but I would just like to make a thought too, that as I mentioned earlier, the service hours are due on the 4th, but if you do any other service throughout the spring or summer after those dates, it can still be counted for the next year. So be thinking about that as you're kind of figuring out what your plans will be for the spring and summer.
Yeah, I mean,
And one of the
service,
things, sorry, one of the things that is important about the service hours is it's a benchmark that we use with the community and the university at large to identify the economic impact that student athletes have on our community. So there is a bigger picture to just the overall economic impact of what we do to support this community.
yes, that's great from my end to see you guys doing those service hours and getting out there. Even if it's not Ames Little League, just building the Ames community at all is great. So we just happen to like Little League.
Sounds good. Well, David, thank you for sharing that. I anticipate that you'll probably get some interest here. And then when we post the recording, we'll have this in our minutes as well on how to contact you. So,
great. And my email, you have my email, Lindsay, but my phone number was on there too, whatever works better for people. And I'll send you that presentation in case anyone wants it.
oh, that'd be great. Yeah. And we'll include that. We'll include both in the minutes.
Okay. Thanks
So,
everyone for your time.
of course. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
All right. So I think we're going to turn it over to Blake.
Yes. All right. So we're doing our same icebreaker. You guys can answer in the chat if you want. But the first question is, what's your favorite seat on an airplane? Mine's definitely the emergency row.
For the leg room?
Exit rows, window seats. I like to be able to watch everything too, so I like the window as well. Leg room's the most important thing, though, in my opinion. Next question. If you could eliminate one food so no one could eat it ever again, what would you destroy? Wow, that's an aggressive question. Pickles, Chase? Mushrooms. Lindsay, great answer. I think red onions are terrible too. I think they overtake every single dish that they're in. I would love if red onions didn't exist. Horseradish. Can't say I've ever had horseradish. Oh, a couple tunas. Charlie, no pineapple on pizza? Come on.
Charlie, scared of complex flavors.
All right, well, we got the other one. Oh yeah, this one's harder. If you had a bow, what would you name it? What? Charlie likes Clarissa. That one's tough. We're not getting many. Lindsay, you'd go with just question marks? I kind of like it. I think punctuation's underutilized in the boat naming world. That's clever. All right, using one word, name something that drives your success. Charlie with Clarissa again. Love, future, family, support, impact, progress. I like impact. I'd probably go that line as well. Something meaningful, commitment. All really good answers there. Ashley said evolve. All right. Well, those are our 4 icebreakers. Thanks, guys, for participating. And Lear, we'll throw it back to you so you can cover your Big 12 updates.
Yeah, so we met as a Big 12 SAAC like 2 weeks ago now and went over a ton of information. One of the more interesting things was that they're proposing changing the name from Student Athlete Advisory Committee to Student Athlete Advocacy Committee. And kind of the mindset around that was, at this point in our journey as the SAAC committee, we're kind of becoming more of advocates rather than advising our peers. So they haven't decided on anything 100% yet, but if you guys had any other thoughts on that or anything that you'd like me to bring to our next Big 12 meeting, which is actually tomorrow, I'd be happy to share any of your guys' thoughts. And specifically, I'd like your thoughts on this interconference transfer policy. So right now, the current conference transfer rules are that basketball, baseball, and football in-conference transfers must sit out for 1 year and also lose that year of eligibility. And then for all other sports, in-conference transfers must have approval from their AD in order to be eligible to play without sitting out at their new school. So what the Big 12 is asking for some kind of general opinions from you all is if you're in support of what the current policy is, so what I just read and what you can see there on the screen, keeping that as is, or if you oppose the current policy and would like to remove the rule entirely and then allow for transfers without restrictions, or if you guys have any other thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns editing that policy, and then just kind of explaining more so what you would want to see changed. Allie has included a poll, I believe, in the comments. There it is. So if you guys want to go ahead, I know that that's kind of a tough question and there's a lot of different things circulating right now that they're trying to figure out within this legislation. But if I could get your guys' initial input, then I can bring that tomorrow and have more of a conversation about how they can change that. And I can try my best to answer any questions that you guys have. I'm a little bit confused on all the policies stuff too, but between me and Allie, Lindsay, all them, we can maybe come up with a good answer, but. And then if you guys do want to vote for the editing of the current policy, go ahead and leave a comment to Allie of what you would like to see changed about that policy. And then we'll record all of that feedback so I can be able to share it tomorrow.
And it looks like most people have responded. So I think that we can save that information and then go ahead and move on to the next part of the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you guys for giving me that feedback.
And just to share the results, 14% were in support of the current policy, keeping it as is. 64% was to oppose the current policy, remove the rule entirely, and allow for transfer without restriction. And 21% were in favor of editing the current policy. So for those that did express interest in editing, please do share your thoughts. It's nothing will be shared with your name. It's just more of feedback so that then we can again, make a difference, right? Being able to help move the needle forward. So thank you, Lear, for bringing that forward. So I am really pleased, and we are excited to have 3 awesome former athletes with us tonight to share their experiences throughout college and also into post-college life. Kyvan Gadsden was a wrestler here. He's a familiar face to a lot of people, because he's still around. Wrestled 2011 to 2015, NCAA champion. Loves ice cream, has a new flavor that's coming out. Quick plug for that with the ISU Creamery. Taylor Sanderson ran track and field, was a decathlete, competed from 2012 to 2016, and is currently at Missouri. And we are excited to have Taylor share just his journey through that career exploration and kind of how he got to where he is today. And Haley Rugemer was a swimmer for us from 2016 to 19. And I actually didn't know this until tonight, but she is in Minneapolis working with a software company. And so we're excited to learn a little bit more from Haley as well. And I believe all of you guys participated in SAAC. We're on SAAC Exec. Were all of you guys officers on SAAC Exec? Got a nod? Yep. Okay. So everybody was involved in SAAC. And you know what? I didn't even look at that when I reached out to you guys. So we reached out and everybody said yes right away. So I didn't even have to go further. So we were excited to have you guys. So would each of you guys share a little bit about yourselves? I do have 3 questions. A favorite Iowa State memory, something that you took away from being involved in SAAC, and then what you're doing now, a little bit more descriptive than what I briefly shared. So favorite memory, something you took away from SAAC, and what you're doing now. Kyvan, could we start with you?
Yes. Favorite memory. I would say for me, it was a little bit after my time at Iowa State, but graduating with my master's degree was a pretty good memory for me, even because I walked this time because my mom was mad at me that I didn't walk the first time. So that was pretty cool. What was the next question?
What is something that you took away from being involved in SAAC?
Being involved, what I took away from being involved with SAAC is that you can only go as far as the people around you. Like, you have a great support when you get to connect with everybody from different sports and different people around the athletic department. And so I really cherish that time because I got to support everybody. I got to go to swim meets, got to go to volleyball games, tennis, everything like that. And so that was something I prided myself on, is that even although I was, very focused on wrestling, is that I got to support and be a part of the whole student athlete experience. And what am I doing now? I'm still wrestling, which I thought I was going to be done with when I got done with college. I actually have the Olympic trials on Friday and Saturday in Texas. So I'm peaking for that right now, and I'm super excited and thrilled to have that opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Taylor, would you mind going next?
Sure. I feel like picking one memory is pretty tough. I would just say my favorite thing about being at Iowa State was just obviously this sounds a little corny, but just your teammates. And I think one of the really special things about Iowa State is just the support around you. I think that goes from your fellow student athletes from different sports, your coaches, and the whole administration just wanting you to succeed. I don't think that's necessarily the case everywhere. What was the next question? Sorry.
Yep, no, that's okay. Something that you took away from being involved in SAAC.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me with SAAC, the most impactful thing was just growing as an individual and a professional. Like, one specific example being I really struggled with public speaking when I joined SAAC, and I kind of put myself out of my comfort zone to get in positions of leadership, and it really helped me improve public speaking to groups. And that's a skill that's basically what my job is now as a fundraiser. So I think that was really impactful. And then right now I'm currently the director of development for Major Gifts at Mizzou. So essentially I fundraise for scholarships, capital projects, and various things for college athletics.
So those that are on scholarships and people and even just some of the benefits and resources that you get as student athletes are because of people like Taylor that are going out and sharing stories and being able to raise donations and funds to support the student athlete experience. So thank you, Taylor. We look forward to hearing more. Haley, what about you?
So thinking about my favorite Iowa State memory, you would think you'd go to, winning against West Virginia in that nail biter or, some other athletic competition, that great win. But really my favorite Iowa State memory is just the times I spent with teammates, the after practice, going to a dining hall and just pigging out, like going for the dessert table, just like hanging out with, your teammates who were there through thick and thin, really having, those lifelong friends and making those connections. That's probably my favorite memory.
Something that you took away from SAAC.
Yes. I would have to agree with Taylor about, really pushing yourself with the public speaking, like career development that I've made through SAAC and putting myself out there is definitely like transition to my career, but really, that part, just developing those skills, but also, interacting with other teams and other sports and learning about their experiences definitely helped put a lot of things in perspective and, kind of, it brought everything together. And then what I'm doing now. So I'm a regional manager for a sales performance management company. We sell software to help from planning to payment and help with a lot of like administrative tasks and automating that. So it's a company called Verisant, but yeah, in software sales.
So I have a couple questions. I think we're just, because of the size of our group, we're going to go ahead and just stay in one large group. And I've got a couple questions, but then please be thinking of some things that we can interact on. So if you guys have other questions, if you'd like to put it in the chat, you're welcome to. We can facilitate those, but also certainly unmute yourself and feel free to ask questions. So I will just throw this out there and everybody can answer. Anybody, you don't have to answer either. What was something that you wish you would have known then that you know now after transitioning out of college athletics? Like in preparation for where you're at today.
I mean, I don't know how directly related this is to professional development, but one piece of advice I like to give out is I think it's a pretty big challenge when you have these set workouts and things in such a direction every day and such a purpose to training and things like that and just general health in terms of working out and being fit. I think that's something I struggled with when I was done competing was when you lose that purpose. I kind of took like 6 months off and it was really hard to get back in. So when you're done competing, kind of find something that you enjoy doing, kind of keep trying to stay involved with fitness. Because for me, I find that really helps me professionally when I'm being active. And I think it's a real struggle when you stop competing and are done with athletics.
Yeah, and just that identity transition too, from what you've always known yourself to be as an athlete and how that comes to a close. I know that's not something necessarily that you've experienced, Kyvan, because you're still wrestling, but you did go through a transition of continuing your education, putting that on pause to be able to fulfill a dream with continuing your wrestling career. Do you mind just kind of sharing through that journey?
Yes. Well, I guess right away, going through my senior season of college in 2014-15, I was like pretty sure I was going to be done wrestling after the season. And so everything went well that year and I was like, all right, I'm done. And then, so I had a graduate assistant role in the Office of Student Athlete Development. And then finished wrestling in March. And then about July, it kind of hit me like, I don't know if I'm really ready to be done wrestling. And so I went to Patrice Fulner, who was the head of the Office of Student Athlete Development, and Mr. Pollard at the time was like, hey, so I know I told you guys like I was really ready to be done wrestling, and I'm kind of not ready to be done. So they were really gracious with me, and we're like, all right, we understand it. You know, you don't get to get these years back. Once you kind of like retire, you're like done, right? And so I would just say embrace being a student athlete, because when things change, you don't get to go back, and it's a really fun time of your life. And like the memories you make, the teammates going to the dining hall and picking out, right? Like I miss those times, like as a freshman, even though we got in trouble for it. But like embrace those times, embrace those opportunities, because when they're gone, you don't get them back.
Haley, what about you?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, staying in the now is super important. Like Kevin was saying, you don't get these years back. I mean, there's years after sports, you know, after you retire your sport, you know, you still have those teammates, you still have those memories. You are still going to be making new memories, you know, with the people you've met and who have been supporting you. But that competition, that drive, that you know, purpose of, you know, we're going to do this and we're going to beat this team and then we're going to win the championship or whatnot, that's not necessarily there in the same format that it has been, you know, your entire life up to this point. You know, you're in high school, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and the next step is you make it into a college, and then you're going to do X, Y, and Z, you're going to win the championship, and after that, you know, it's a whole new experience for you to you know, pave your way, where it can be a little scary, where, you know, the world is huge, you have to define your own path for the first time for most of our lives. But I think you really learn a lot more than you would think as an athlete. Kind of as I was reflecting on it, you know, I didn't have a ton of real world experience going into a career. When I'm interviewing, you know, they're asking, you know, what have you been doing like to prepare for a role like this? And, you know, I didn't have necessarily those real life, quote unquote, job experiences to point out. But reflecting on it, you learn a lot as a student athlete. You're coachable. You have that drive and that the ability for time management. You know what it takes to win, and not a lot of people have that in the working world. You know, I mean, I think being coachable is the biggest thing. So that's kind of what I learned from it. But for your years now at Iowa State, being present and just absorbing it all is something that I think is really important.
I love that you touched on the transferable skills, because I think that is so important, because it is difficult to manage getting hands-on experience while you're competing with the in-season, out of season, and summer seasons and all of that. So those transferable skills don't undervalue, because there's really, you know, a lot of benefits to that. And there are companies who seek out athletes for exactly what you just described. Does anybody have any questions for anybody specific? One additional thought that I had was just walking through COVID. How has COVID impacted each of you this last year in your roles, your current roles, or family, how, you know, whatever you'd like to share?
It's put my whole world in, my whole world's been spinning. But as far as wrestling goes, like I just had to get a COVID test on Sunday, and then I have to get another one on Wednesday, or no, tomorrow when I get to the Olympic trials. But it slowed everything down in my life and made me more aware of like Haley kind of alluded to, is just being present, right? Like sometimes when you're so focused maybe on an outcome or a result that you're trying to achieve or accomplish, sometimes you can focus too much on that and not focus on that step that's right ahead of you that you're taking. And so yeah, it's been crazy. And the thing that's kind of, I guess, kept me balanced is like having a routine, right? Like creating a routine and creating the habits that you use when you're a student athlete, like in the off season and things like that. Yeah, you don't have to have practices and everything the same way and everything, but when COVID hit, it was like, okay, now the Olympics are postponed for a year. What is that going to look like? How do you still prepare when you can't go to the wrestling room? You can't go to the weight room. It really essentially made me more self-reliant, which is some of the stuff that you learn as a student athlete, right? Like a coach can take you so far, but a lot of the people that achieve and accomplish things, whether it's in our sports or school, those people usually put in a little bit extra away from everyone else. And so it's really opened my eyes to that little extra that you need to be doing to put yourself in a position to, you know, achieve and be successful consistently.
Thanks, Carmen.
I guess kind of before I go into mine, I just kind of commend everyone who's gone through this COVID year. And I'm in athletics still, and I'm around student athletes here at Mizzou. And I just think the challenges you're all facing right now compared to what we did going through school, like I couldn't imagine like not knowing if I'm going to have a season, all the testing, everything about it. So I think that is something that when you get past your life in athletics, you're going to be able to tell that story, and that's going to set you apart from the people you're competing against for jobs. So I know I'm sure it's a grind. I don't have to get tested 3 times a week. So I just really commend you all for that. And I do think that's something that's really going to pay off for you long term. It's just that being able to tell that story of adversity and how you persevered through it. But I guess for my career, I mean, my job is predicated on being out on the road, seeing donors, having face-to-face interaction. So I wasn't really allowed to do that for about 6-7 months. So we really had to innovate, get on the phones more, find kind of creative ways to interact with people. And I think it's just taught people in the industry of fundraising just to be more creative in getting in front of people. And I think it's taught a lot of old people how to use Zoom. So that's advantageous for us sometimes.
That is true. Everybody's more comfortable with facilitating. Thanks for sharing. Haley, how does that impact your world?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Taylor, you said the one word, adversity. That's something that we learn in sports, and, you know, we're thrown a lot of adversity with injuries or, you know, switching events for me, you know, that type of thing. But this year, especially, I would be typically flying to clients, you know, 4 days out of the week, talking to them, you know, bringing people out to dinner, that type of thing. I wasn't able to do any of that. So learning how to sell virtually without having that human connection has been, it's been difficult. It's, you know, when we started out in March, everyone was trying to do webinars. Like everyone was doing a webinar. No one really wanted to sit and watch a webinar, but everyone has to get their message out there. Where this past 6 months, especially, it's really forced me to be creative in how I'm getting people's attention, and, you know, how can I capture their interests so I can have that conversation that it has to be forced at this point because we're all, you know, sitting in our living rooms. So it's really, this past year has been, you know, adversity, but perseverance to try to get through it and try to be creative to make those connections. I mean, it's been hard for everyone. I cannot imagine what you guys are going through. And, you know, I just would say, keep leaning on your teammates, keep leaning on the people around you, because, you know, we all need support as we go through this.
I had a question for you guys. Thank all 3 of you for jumping on. One thing that I think I've gotten really accustomed to as a student athlete is having like a strong mentor, someone I can look up to, and just getting constant feedback. How are you guys able to kind of make that transition away? Because like in football, every single thing you do gets graded. So I love having that feedback so I know how I'm doing. How is that working for you guys in your professional lives now?
Yeah, I can start with this one. The whole mentoring thing, never let that go away. But you have to be an advocate to try to get mentors to start off. But I've that was a part that I really struggled with is, when my coaches weren't constantly there, like I needed someone to like, run ideas by, to guide me, where, through networking, and I know networking is just some massive word that, what does it really mean? But through, just having conversations with people, you can start to develop the relationships and, ultimately ask someone to be your mentor, where everyone is, what I'm realizing, really willing to, lend a hand or hop on a phone call to talk through things, where that would be one of my advice to everyone is just start having conversations with people, and, you'll find someone that really you click with, and, get the courage to ask them to be your mentor, because I would say probably 99% of the time they'll accept. Everyone's pretty, wants to support each other. But the part about having constant feedback, that's something I actually really struggled with in my first job out of college. I've since left right at the beginning of the pandemic. I switched careers, but my first job, I didn't have any feedback from my manager. It was, type of thing where I went and did my work and I brought it back, and then, found out I didn't do it correctly, or, didn't hear anything at all. And that's something that I really struggled with, because I was constantly collaborating with my teammates, with my coaches, with my professors, with everyone to try to perfect the things I was doing, where, I wasn't actively getting that feedback back because everyone was busy with their own roles. But when I started this new job, I made that very clear to my manager kind of from day one of like, this is part of my personality trait. Like, I don't need to be micromanaged, but I really like, I personally appreciate hearing if I'm doing something, you might have taken a different take on it, or, if other people are doing it differently, I want to hear why. And maybe the way I'm doing it is wrong. Maybe the way I'm doing it is right. But that's something that I personally really thrive on. And, your managers take that to heart, and they really want you to succeed. And, I found that has really helped me progress my career, as well as strengthen the team that I'm on now.
That's a great advice. Taylor or Kyvan, do you guys have any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of follow off what Haley said too. I think Haley and I both seem to be in careers that are actually, there is a little bit of a scoreboard. Like, I fundraise, so I'm measured based off metrics, number of money I raised, gifts raised. So I think as a former student athlete, like, that really appealed to me about the job. And I think it is really difficult. I think that was something I probably took for granted a little bit, the support system you have when you're in school as a student athlete. I mean, the coaches around you and everyone just wants you to succeed so much. So once you kind of step out in the real world, I think it is so important to find people who can be mentors to you. And I think that people really like being asked for advice in general. So I think most people, if you reach out and there's someone in your field that you think's doing a good job, reach out and ask them to be a mentor. And I've never really seen anyone turn me away when I've reached out for that type of advice. So I think just don't be afraid to ask, and most people really will want to help you out.
I think one thing that I would just add in my professional career is when you are seeking that relationship with a mentor, it is different than when you are a student athlete, because it seems like as a professional, it takes a lot more reciprocation, right? Like, you have to be willing to really open that conversation with somebody that you are engaging that professional relationship with, because they're busy in their job, you're busy in your job, but it's a different environment now. It's a professional environment versus a learning environment as a college athlete or as a college student. And so just making that transition, I think, is important to think about. It could be something as simple as staying connected through LinkedIn, but asking those questions and bringing ideas to the table, gauging that interest of, asking for advice, because it always does feel good to give advice. And somebody said to me today, actually, I was out at football practice and I was standing with Ron McFarland, Sugar Bear, who has been on these calls from time to time. And he said, you should always look to find people who are older than you to learn from, the same age as you to collaborate with, and younger than you to teach. And I thought that was really good advice, because if you do surround yourself with people across different stages of life, you can really learn and find ways to grow. But that was just one of the things that I took away from the difference in the professional environment versus a college environment with mentors, for what it's worth. Any
I have
other
a question.
Go ahead.
This question's changing gears a little bit, and I might ramble on asking it, but as you guys can see, SAAC looks a little bit different than what it was when you guys were in school, just based on COVID alone. And as we progress into the spring, having meetings in person and then going into next year, what advice would you give the committee that's here today on continuing with engaging other student athletes to join SAAC, or different projects that we might want to pursue in the fall? Based on like the goals that you guys can remember from when you served on SAAC, what kind of advice would you give those listening to today about SAAC? I don't know if that's worded correctly or if that even makes sense, but that's what I'm thinking about.
I think you guys are doing a great job. Even just sitting in on this one meeting, having it virtually, I know it's different than it normally has been in the past, but it's great to see a group of people on here and, engaging through the icebreakers. That was fun. I might actually take that back to my own team. We really do not have great icebreakers. So I liked the questions that were put in there. But moving forward to, the spring and forward SAAC meetings, with the uncertainty of knowing really when we can get back in person, and those volunteering events that we really relied on when I was there, like SciCans was a big one, the exercise time on Friday nights, those types of events, the uncertainty of having those. Something that I maybe would suggest, and what we're doing as our own volunteering at my organization, is we do mentoring programs via Zoom. So mentoring, right now I'm mentoring a couple of people in high school who are trying to figure out where they want to go to colleges at, and giving my experience on, what deciding factors that really I did when looking to go to college, but also, about tailoring it to their own experience, where maybe there's some kind of mentoring, like Lindsay was saying, teaching the people younger, that you guys could get involved with, because I know, getting community service hours, but also having an impact on the community might be a suggestion to look at.
Awesome.
If I had anything, I would say leave something for the next group to do. Like when I finished up, we were really talking about pushing forward everything with like your guys' Oscars now. And so it's really awesome to come back on this meeting and see that you guys have like your own celebration of Iowa State student athletes and their achievements. Like that was something that we were trying to get done, and we were trying to find a name and everything like that. And now looking back, like Taylor and I were on the committee together, right? And so now looking back and seeing that you all took that and took it to a different level is awesome to see. So I would say leave something for the next group to take to the next level, and that can be a number of different things, and it can look at a number of different ways, but I was really excited to see that.
It's a fun event for sure.
Kind of going off what Kyvan said there too, is just as an alum, I'm proud to see year to year, like the advancement SAAC is making with various programs. And I feel like it's so cool to think, like, sometimes I think to myself, like, wow, I wish I would have thought of that when I was in that role. And so I think it's really neat for all y'all to see how it progresses each year. And but I would say one thing I think we really tried to focus on was just, and I know sometimes there's different rules on who can come to meetings and who can't, but just trying to be as inclusive as possible across all your teams and get as many people involved as possible. I know there are some rules before, like in the past, you could only have so many people come to certain meetings, but I thought it was really neat to try and get as many people as possible, invite your teammates. And I think the more people that come, the more of an event it is. And I think it's easier to keep drawing more people to come back if their teammates are coming. You probably all know that already, but I guess that was just my experience with it.
It's true. We've always had the we've always been the leader in the Big 12 with the number of people that attend. So, well, I want to be respectful of time. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here again so that we can include some upcoming events. So I think this is Allie. I think you're going to take over on this one.
Yeah, just wanted to share a couple of things that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So on April 6th, there is another virtual career fair. So this one is actually put on by the ACC and the SEC. This is not restricted to people that are associated with those conferences. So if you are interested in attending or you're looking for a job or an internship, you are welcome to participate in that. There is more information available on the Cyclone Student Athlete dashboard, and there's a link for registration on there as well. If any of you attended the Big 12 Career Fair last week, I think it was, it will be organized through a similar platform. So that is coming up next week on April 6th. Another opportunity that we wanted to share is the YSS Connection opportunities. We had a couple of these in February and March, and just wanted to share an update that we are actually going to be able to do them in person for April. So originally we had one scheduled virtually on April 14th, but we're going to do a couple different dates in April and actually be able to go to the residential facilities. And I think the plan is to take pizza there and then be able to connect with the youth that are in those facilities in person. So if you are interested and available at noon on those days, you can sign up for those opportunities also via the Cyclone Student Athlete dashboard. And then the last update that we wanted to share is just that we are going to be posting on Sundays on the ISU athletes Twitter and Instagram accounts a schedule of the week's upcoming events. So this will just be another way to keep you all updated on what's coming up. So keep an eye on Sundays on those accounts to see the ways you can get involved in the upcoming week.
Awesome. Thank you, Allie. And before we jump to our shout outs, just a reminder, here is the dashboard that we've put together. So all of the upcoming events have the links right in here. So here's where you can register for the virtual career fair and then keep tabs on what things are upcoming. So we've got several links in here, community service signups, and then here are our Cyclone leaderboards for the Cyclone Serve, as well as our sport totals. So you can get to these through the Cyclone Journey, and then it'll be included in our minutes. So I will jump right back over here to our shout outs, and I will turn it over to Lear.
I hope our alumni got a good look at that dashboard too. It's pretty cool. And I know that our staff has done a great job setting that all up and giving us tons of resources. So that's been a nice change.
We definitely didn't have that back 5 years ago.
No. All right. So for wrap ups and shout outs, if you guys want to use, I just found out recently that there's these reaction things. So we can do the little clap on the reactions. So tennis beat K-State and number 44 Kansas. Congratulations to them. Volleyball beat Wayne State twice. And then for track and field, we have 9 first place showings in the Blue Oval Open. And then for softball, Sammy Williams broke ISU's career hits record with 298. So that's awesome.
Am I sharing the right screen?
Did I just read the wrong thing?
No, you did. Okay, sorry. I had it flipped again. So no, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Sorry. All right, let me continue on here.
All right. And then coming up, women's golf will be at their meet the 28th through the 29th, and men's golf will be at theirs the 28th through the 30th. Softball will compete March 30th at Drake, and then again for a tournament April 1st to the 3rd at Oklahoma State. Track and field will have 2 different relays, April 2nd through the 3rd. And then gymnastics will be competing at NCAA regional semifinals. And then I'm so excited to say that our next SAAC meeting will actually be in person at Hickson. And of course, there will be food. We're going to have Chick-fil-A, but in order to get the Chick-fil-A, you guys have to register by April 15th. So we're super excited for that meeting and to be able to see everyone in person. It's been a long year, so we'll be excited for that one.
Did we shout out David yet?
Oh yeah, shout out to David as our national champion. Good call.
Yeah, national champion.
Ain't shout out a national champ that don't show up to meetings.
No.
And also Wesley Kiptoo as well as our indoor track and field national champion and Big 12 champion. And Gannon Grimmel is a Big 12 champion as well. So yeah, lots of good success. I just jumped right back over here real quick to the dashboard. So here's where you can sign up for in-person option. So that's what will help us with our numbers for the food. And if you're not able or not comfortable to join us in person, you can still sign up virtually because we will also have it linked to the Zoom. So our plan for the 19th is to thank all of our current board members and then welcome in our 2021-22 board members. So we'll be starting those interview processes, the beginning of April. Did I miss anything on that?
Nope, I think that's everything.
Okay. Thank you, Taylor and Haley and Kyvan for joining us tonight. Good questions. We really love having you guys still involved. I know you guys are always on the lookout for supporting everybody in the Cyclone community. So thank you for being so great. And we definitely will be in touch. Everybody else have a great weekend, a great rest of the week. It's Monday. And let us know if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thanks guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.